A royal commission into veteran suicide is being actively considered by the government, but not all veterans agree that it will help. Sky News is following the stories of mental health among young veterans in the lead up to Remembrance Day on Monday. Joining us live now from Townsville is Sky News reporter Annelise Nielsen. Annelise, interestingly, some veterans today are saying that the money spent on a royal commission would be far better off spent elsewhere, haven't they?
That is what I've been hearing from veterans. It has been the question about how much money it would cost to have a royal commission and where it would go, because so many of the veterans we've been talking to have said that the government knows where the problems are, they just need money to fix it. So we've been on the ground here speaking to veterans themselves, ones who've struggled with mental health issues since they've left the Defence Force, and also those on the front line who are trying to help those veterans who are struggling and seeing what they can do to support them. So one of the ones we've spoken to today is Zach Schumacher. Now, he has dislocated his hip 3 times and been in operations a number of times. He's based here in Townsville and hasn't been deployed overseas, but he has been medically restricted since he's had those injuries, and he suffered from some mental health complications himself. He said he was quite depressed, and when we've asked him about whether there should be a royal commission into veterans affairs and veterans suicide, he was cautiously optimistic that it may help, but said that a lot of those issues are already very well known.
If it looks at more than just how many are being committed, and if it looks at the core reasons behind that, I think it'd be good, because it's not just one factor, like DVA wait times, like the sense of belonging. People struggle financially once discharged, and all those things add up. So it's hard to put a finger on exactly what it is.
Now, Peter, Zach touched on that there briefly, those DVA wait times. That has been a consistent theme with a number of the veterans we've spoken to, where they've said when they have gone for help, they've found the wait times at DVA can fluctuate wildly depending on who you access and when you access them. They've said that they were receiving help from people like advocates through the RSL, but it can be a huge challenge when you're already struggling with mental health issues to then have delays, and any kind of delay to mental health in particular is quite detrimental, and that's something that a number were concerned about. We spoke with Anita Brooker. Now, she is helping start the Oasis, a support service here in Townsville, and it's supposed to be that one-stop shop where they don't provide the services as themselves, but they help people access it without any kind of further complications that would make it too hard to get there. She was not very positive about a royal commission into veteran suicide.
I personally don't think it would help. I think we need to spend the money making sure DVA is the right fit.
Now, the people that are really interesting to talk to in this instance are those who have served overseas, have been involved in combat and seen just how much of a toll it can take on your mental health. One of the veterans we've spoken to is Anthony Mexner. Now, he started an app called Swiss 8. It's with a group of veterans, and it's supposed to get those healthy habits back in your life. It's called the Swiss 8. Swiss means neutral. Anyone from any part of the Defence Force or even the community can use it, but also the 8 is the different aspects of your life, things that can help your mental health. He said he really struggled with getting any funding for it, even though it was a veteran initiative, and they found that incredibly frustrating. They did get some support from UNSW, but they're saying this is the kind of support the government could be putting in now instead of waiting for a royal commission to come through and then put recommendations in. They've got things ready to go.
I honestly think that you wouldn't get anything out of it for the money that they're going to cost. I think people in the positions already know what the problems are, but they're scared to say them for alienating part of the community.
Yeah, look, I think this is a genuine discussion that has to happen before the Prime Minister responds to grieving mothers, as justifiable as any response would be, Annelise, because you've just interviewed a whole bunch of people at the coalface of veteran services, not necessarily at the grief end, but at the practical end, and you wouldn't get out of a Royal Commission for about $150 million, and there are plenty of ways that $150 million can be spent. I think your first guest, Zach, really hit the nail on the head. It's being able to get a job, and that's where the community employers have got to step up and see the value of veteran skills. It's the wait time issue where governments can fix that. That's something the government can do now. They don't need to be told by a Royal Commission. But the sense of belonging, you know, I've spent a lot of time with military people working in politics. It is very much a family, and I think people underestimate once they leave the ADF that sense of community that they had, that they will miss it probably more than they might suspect. They might rail against the discipline and the regimen while they're there, but that's part of what keeps them healthy and fit and all of those things, and that falls by the wayside for many of them, and it exacerbates some of these mental health concerns. So yeah, I need to be convinced that a Royal Commission is the right answer, but I am convinced that there's got to be real action pretty quickly. How long are you staying in Townsville for?
Well, we're here for the weekend. We're going to be talking to some more veterans over the weekend, looking at some of those positive programs that are helping them with their mental health. But Peter, you've absolutely hit it on the head. People who go into the Defence Force are going in because they want to be part of that community, because they want to have that sense of cohesiveness. And so when you fall out the other side of it, especially with injury, that's so much what we've been hearing. And even that last guest we spoke to, Anthony Mexner, he said he's had 4 of his former combat colleagues take their own lives in the last year. That's an extraordinary number, and you can't underestimate what kind of toll that would have on a person and on the community. And so this is the cold face, and they're saying that they know what the problems are, they need the money now, and they can't wait for a Royal Commission. And so it is a very difficult issue. It doesn't mean that there shouldn't be one, but there's certainly issues that they could be addressing now.